You're listening to Civic Media. You can tune into any of our live shows on any radio station across the state with the Civic Media app. Find us in your phone's app store and listen anytime, anywhere.
And good evening and welcome to the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. K5 Construction, a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to the final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. With former Newman Catholic High School boys basketball coach Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. It is our final episode of the year for the 2024-2025 season. What we do is we start off for the fall football season in mid-August, go through the fall, and then go through the entirety of the winter high school sports season until the end of the boys basketball state tournament. And then we take a break for about 4 months and then come back and do it all over again in mid-August. But tonight we got a big one to wrap things up. We will be joined at 6:25 by Wausau East High School boys basketball coach Dan Garrett, as he took the Lumberjacks to the state tournament in Madison last weekend. Then in hour number 2, our student-athlete guest from Wausau West High School, Cooper DePoit, a junior who was a first-team all-state selection this season for the Warriors, who also made it to the state tournament. And then we'll kind of recap the hockey year, as joining us after Cooper DePoit will be Wausau West hockey coach B.J. Brandt. So going to wrap it up in fine fashion here to put the finishing touches. We still have snow on the ground, so it's unusual. But Jeff Gress, I guess we should jump right in. And I know you went down to the Kohl Center on Saturday, saw the championship rounds of the boys high school basketball state tournament. I guess before we actually delve into each of the divisions, and especially our area teams, what jumped out? What did you see when you were down there? Was there a good energy down there?
Yeah, well, it was awesome. But the sad thing that jumped out is between you, myself, and Coach Pieper, we know nothing about who's supposed to win these days. The good news is there's no champion. The bad news is we're all 1-4. If I did my count, yeah, we tied.
We're all winners.
Well, if 1-4 is a winning mark, sure. What the awesome vibe is what it always is, and I think you can echo that if you've ever been to a state tournament in any sport in any fashion. It's just the atmosphere of what those kids have accomplished to get there. All the blood, sweat, and tears from the off season to the hard work that they put together to coming together as a team under the leadership of the coaches and everybody, making it through the gauntlet of a regular season schedule on top of playoffs and surviving all the injuries and sicknesses that come about in a regular season. The atmosphere was, I thought, it was top notch, whether it was packed more or less than in attendance wise, but the vibe of those games when you get to the OTs or you get teams that are down and they come back, or it's only 2 points at halftime, you have to, like people say, it doesn't do justice to sit. It's easy to watch it from the comfort of your couch. I've done it many times. The energy level's low and I want to sit there and just watch on my TV. But it is awesome being in that atmosphere, hearing the roar of the crowd, waiting for somebody to make a shot, seeing somebody get a key steal off a turnover, seeing the excitement of players and coaches celebrating and jumping up in the air. It was awesome from Games 5, Division 5 down to Division 1.
Well, let's start with the D1. Semifinals last Friday, and great first game. Oshkosh North, a bit of a Cinderella team just to get there. I mean, they had 10 losses on the year, so that means when the playoffs started, they finished 19-10. So, I mean, how many games do you win? Maybe 5 games to get to the state tournament. Yep. So they only had about 14 wins on the season, but they kept winning, and they beat a terrific De Pere team in the sectional final. And they fell behind Wisconsin Lutheran, but then they came back, and then it turned into a great finish with Wisconsin Lutheran, the number 1 seed, knocking off number 4 seeded Oshkosh North 58-57. I really enjoyed watching that game. I enjoyed what Oshkosh North was able to accomplish because watching it after they fell behind and being the underdog, I had a good bit of a rooting interest there.
Yeah, you got to love pulling for the people that get down there. Like, even when, I always used to root for the Green Bay New Lutherans. They'd have that under 500 record, and you'd want to see that. And then they'd go pull it out. I mean, that was always impressive to me. So to come in as the underdog, you not a lot of pressure there. You got nothing to lose, and for them to jump out and come back and play well throughout that basketball game was good to see. And even extra things to kind of. It's neat that they made it there, because sometimes that Mr. Basketball award comes out early, and it's that team doesn't make it all of a sudden, and you don't get to see Mr. It's neat to be at this, and I don't care his first name. I lose track. His last name is Mitchell. I know that for sure. He was on the Oshkosh North team, won Mr. Basketball, and
Xavier Mitchell.
Yep, Xavier Mitchell, and played well throughout that game, and unfortunately, team falls short. And
27 points and 13 rebounds. But I will say, 30 field goal attempts.
Yeah,
he was high volume. He was
right,
9
and
of 30
didn't.
for the field.
Yeah, he didn't play his greatest game, but sometimes just a player out there taking the impact off the other guys and trying to figure out how to help them. They only had a 1-point loss in a state semifinal game, and again, I talked to a hockey lady about just the fact that you've mentioned it many times with the cliche. It's the cake is getting there, and the cake is just
getting to state.
Yeah, getting to state, and the icing is
what happens.
Anything that can happen down there, and they did just that. So it's cool to be down there.
And then a game that many folks in Central Wisconsin were keeping an eye on, game number 2, Marshfield and Waunakee. And the Marshfield Tigers able to win that one. Number 3 seeded Marshfield defeating Waunakee by a score of 57-47. Again, Brooks Hinson exceptionally solid. I mean, he just goes out there. I mean, you talk about high volume, and then 4 of 8 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3-point range, 7 of 10 from the line, 8 rebounds. I mean, just what he does. I mean, some guys, like you say, Mitchell's a guy that we see a lot of those types where I think the team needs him to be more of a high volume guy. Right. Marshfield doesn't need that. He had Chris Pohl with 17, but I thought Hinson stepped up and played like he does during the course of the Valley season.
Well, and the stat line is my first notes for that game that I wrote down was all Hinson accomplished. He shot the ball well from both the free throw line, both inside and 2-point land, and outside and 3-point land, culmination of 18 points. And he's been such a big deal the way he steps up. I mean, continuing tonight, I bet he'll be one of the Channel 7 All-Stars in the big schools. I'd almost bet on it. But that as a team, though, sometimes we talk about those less turnovers and more free throws made being such a big deal. And for Marshfield against Waunakee to get that 10-point win, the 81% from the free throw line, they shot 45% overall as a team, which is another good shooting percent, especially down at state where there's that vibe. And especially in your first state semifinal game, sometimes teams don't come out and shoot that well right away. And they out-rebounded Waunakee, only had 7 turnovers. That's a big deal, I think, because, again, so much that high-energy flow, whether you want to call it anxiety, stress, you overplay a little bit, and the adrenaline gets going, and the ball can go flying in a lot of different directions. They also played good defense off of Waunakee's turnovers. They had 17 points off their turnovers. So I thought for Marshfield in that state semifinal game, a nice W, 10-point lead against a team out of a different area.
And then the championship game, and it was a nip and tuck affair between Marshfield and Wisconsin Lutheran. One of the things that kind of jumped out in this game, it was 57-55. Wisconsin Lutheran earned the win. Both teams' shooting percentage were incredibly high. I mean, you had Marshfield hitting 21 of 36 from the field, 11 of 20 from 3-point range. You had, and that's 58% field goals and 55% behind the arc. And then Wisconsin Lutheran shot 23 of 38 from the field, 60.5%. They were 6 of 16 from behind the arc. With those numbers, it felt like the game should have been higher scoring.
Well, right. And the thing that stands out, here's the downside for when you go down to the state title and you have to drive back and you worry about the number of deer you're counting on the right. We waited till halftime as long as we could, and we left it was still like almost 9:45 about halftime, and weren't able to watch. I was getting updates from the young 8th graders in the back of my car giving me updates that my son and his friend that rode with me on how the game was going. So we kind of watched that on iPads on the way back. But the first half was great. That was the thing that really stood out for me was that as a team down at state, you can go and hit over 50% of your three-pointer as a group. People knocking down shots. And Landon Lee stepped up in the game, which is nice. So Hinson, didn't do as much as he did damage-wise in controlling the game, but Lee steps up with 22 points, 9 of 12 from the field, 4 of 6 from the three-point line. And here's the key thing that stands out for me in that game in the second half is in the last 2 minutes, minute 30, is kind of how Wisconsin, Lutheran takes over and makes a couple key plays at the end that, they changed it came down, the green kid for Wisconsin Lutheran.
Yep.
He has a steal, and he gets an assist out of it for the layup that I think that either puts him up one or knocks it to within one. And then he gets another steal and gets fouled off that and goes to the free throw line and hits the one that ultimately puts him up by 2. So just identical stats, not a big difference in the stat line, but that key came down to Green. In those tight games like that, you make a couple plays, and that's the end of the game. And the Green kids stepped up, and those 2 key turnovers, as much as they hurt Marshfield, they tremendously helped Wisconsin Lutheran win another state title.
And for Marshfield, to come that close, you said it. Obviously getting to the state championship game is probably more than anyone would expect. They knew they had a good team, but at the same time, that's always a tough bracket to get out of just to get to state. But then you get that close. It's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Oh yeah, big time. It torments you if if you care about it at all. It's kind of a what if moment. We could have, but then you reflect back on what you're accomplishing, what you can hang your hat on, and the conference title, and getting there out of a tough sectional that is all over the. It's got a big disparity in its geographical location of the different amount of teams you got to play, and then it wasn't any easy feat in who they had to play. Waunakee was a tough matchup. Wisconsin Lutheran won the D2 title last year at 30-0, and now they got bumped up and they won the Division I title at 28-2. So that's a team that's polished and well played. And I just think I read a line from Coach Fisher in his quotes that Wiz Sports wrote up, and he said the best thing about today, and that was after the loss, is not only what we were able to accomplish, but that there will be younger generation in Marshfield who want to pick up and touch a basketball because of what these guys did in that building of tradition and that instinct of being competitive and wanting to accomplish what you just witnessed. I think it's a big deal. I thought it was a great way to look at it, of telling those guys, look what you've done that'll still be absorbed when these 9 and 10-year-olds come through our system because of what you guys were able to accomplish.
Saw some great tight games in D1. Had some very tight games as well in Division II. The first semifinal, Racine Park, number 1 seed, got past Cedarburg, 65-63. And then Wausau East hit the court, and the Lumberjacks took an early lead, had pushed it up to about 7-8 points very quickly. But then Wauwatosa West came back and knocked off the Jacks 75-63 in that game for Wausau East. Another big game for Jesse Napgezik. He had 21 points in the game. He was the only Wausau East player in double digits, but balanced below that. He had 9 points for Teddy Schlindwein, 8 points each for Jaden Garrett, Jed Vandersanden, and Charlie Cayley. Cayley also pulled down 11 rebounds as well. East shot the ball really well in the second half, 15-26. You look at those numbers, you feel like, man, they should have outscored them in the second half, but in the end, actually, it was Wauwatosa West kind of pulling away in the second half. But East really, I thought, handled themselves well down there.
I thought, they played I saw a handful of their games. I can't say I saw every game this year, obviously, and I thought that was one of their best games. And hopefully, Coach Garrett, when he comes on, can verify some of that thinking. But I thought what I saw out of them was outstanding. They had a good showing for Central Wisconsin. They represented their school really well. They represented their conference really well. I don't think the final score does justice to how well they played down there. They jumped out. They went after them right away, I thought. Shot 48% from field goal range for the game, which is great. They out-rebounded them, which was good. 13 offensive boards is a good game night. 46 points in the paint. They're taking high-quality shots, which led to good field goal percentage. And here's the thing I really liked about what was done. Coaches that scout East and play against them know what's coming with Napgezik and Cayley and Garrett and those guys coming at them. But some of their bench guys, some of the baskets they took. I really thought they stepped up. That means that team was ready to go. When you see, no matter whether you're subbing or guys are coming in off the bench or it's your starters, whatever it is, they were playing complete. And I thought that was one of the best games I've ever seen East play out of. Again, only a handful that I watched, but I thought it really culminated. And that's where it should be, is down there at that moment. They tried to do everything they possibly could, and I thought they played really well. And unfortunately, didn't win the game, which I was hoping they would, but played really, really well. A lot to be proud of just for that trip down there.
And Wauwatosa West then defeated Racine Park, another tight one, 60-57. I was hoping for Park, actually, because they had not ever been down there for like 60 years, but it was another very competitive game. What jumped out watching it in person?
I liked watching Racine Park. They're a couple of those guys that they had were just, I would say, I really loved their point guard play. I think it was Isaiah Robinson. That guy, he missed the final one to win it. When he took the three at the end of the game, or to tie it, maybe it was, I can't remember. What were they down? Yeah, they were down 3, so it would have tied it in OT. So he missed that final shot, and that guy played well. He was all over the floor. The kid that kind of stood out for me was the Klosky kid. He seemed to come alive.
14 of 18 from the field.
He came alive in both games. He played well against East, and then he played well against Racine Park. And sometimes, how many times have you seen it where a kid just kind of makes the most of it, being down at state, and then he shows up and he ends up on the map. But Racine Park had some stats. They had more time of possession with the lead. They had they out-rebounded them, the fast break points, which was really key in their game. They really had a good press and got up and down the floor. And it looked a couple times like Tosa was going to fall apart. And all of a sudden, a couple key misses. Racine Park, one of their coach was quoted as not, he's like, we got good looks yet. We just didn't knock them down tonight. So he knew they were getting the shots they wanted and they couldn't make it. And Tosa shot 50% from the field versus Racine Park for 44%. And, in overtime, the Racine Park didn't shoot well, down to 25% in overtime. That's going to kill you when your percentage drops that much.
Division III, Freedom in the first semifinal defeated Elk Mound in a blowout that started off the tournament 66-32. Milwaukee Academy of Science had their hands full against Lake Mills, but ultimately pulled it out 65-61. And then another tight one in the title game Saturday as MAS defeated Freedom 57-54. What jumped out? No Central Wisconsin teams in that bracket, but what jumped out?
Well, you knew what Milwaukee Academy of Science was bringing to the table, and all those players. They got a couple players that are going to Division I schools to play basketball, and they were pretty deep and have played well all year long. For Freedom, they had a sophomore named Davis. The kid was impressive. He played really well. He had 19 in the state championship game. I thought played really well up until the point where the Freedom played really well up until the point where Milwaukee Academy of Science went on an 18-2 run at about 14 minutes, down to 6 minutes. They outscored them 18-2. The Courts kid for Freedom, though, played really well, too. 29 points. That kid was lighting it up. He's not committed anywhere. I'm hoping he got a look now. And then for Milwaukee Academy of Science, Brown was one of their big.
Brown,
yeah, he was, I think, 17 points, 19 rebounds.
19 boards.
But he went out between the, I don't know if it was between the 2.5 and 3 minute mark, somewhere in there. He came down, sprained his ankle, and he couldn't come back in. And you thought, well, this is Freedom's move. He was doing a number on Davis at the time, keeping him under control, also defensively, and he got hurt. And Milwaukee Academy of Science just kept at it. They hit the 37 boards, 14 fast break points, and then when you hit the boards like that, you also get a bunch of second chance points where they must have had almost 16 to 20 points and second chance points. So Freedom played well, but Milwaukee Academy of Science down the stretch after that run owned them and won the state title.
Division IV, Bondwell, the number 1 seed, won in the semis over the Prairie School, 59-41. Aquinas had, a battle against Mineral Point. Aquinas just got past Mineral Point, 57-54. And then I was surprised in the championship game. I mean, Bondwell fell behind big early, never able to really put any pressure on, and Aquinas earning the win 74-45.
Well, I'll tell you this, it helps when you shoot about 60% down at state, and Aquinas was able to do that in that championship game, 46% from behind the arc. Bondwell only shot 32%, which, unfortunately with that disparity, but it's tough to guard. It's not for lack of effort or Bondwell. They're still playing their stingy defense and still had good looks. When the ball doesn't fall in and the other team's just knocking shot after shot, especially with what's his name, Trey Barr, who finished with about 20 points and 9 assists.
Yeah.
That kid figured it out right away. He would hit the shots. So then when they come at him, he'd start hitting the seam and he'd get in the lane. And if he could get around him, he'd go to the basket. And if he couldn't, he'd kick it. And his buddy's shooting so well from outside the arc, just was able to do a number out there. And that 46% ended up from field goal range, just killed Bondwell. And unfortunately, it became one of those games where it was just too much to catch up, and every shot becomes pressure packed, and you don't shoot that well.
And especially when a team is hitting from beyond the arc. I mean, it's one thing to hit 58% from the 2-point range, but then to hit 11 3-pointers out of 24, and then struggling from behind the arc was Bondwell at 25%, 7 of 28. I thought that was a major factor in that game as well.
And Bondwell had the size, but Aquinas was just quick to get to the basket and made these made these moves inside out. When you can have your inside out game going and breaking down people, once your shot goes, the defense is going to just bolt out there and protect the 3-point line, because otherwise you're trading threes for twos. It's going to be a long game. And then if you're smart on the offensive end and your players are disciplined, they're going to start getting to the basket, and you either got lanes to the basket or you're driving and kicking it when the help comes. And Aquinas did a really good job of that. And obviously it shows in the discrepancy of that score when the buzzer went off and they won the state title.
And finally, Division 5 semifinals. Number 1 Cochrane Fountain City beat Turtle Lake 66-54. Number 2 seed Sheboygan Lutheran over Abundant Life Christian 80-51, and then it was Cochrane Fountain City earning the state championship over Sheboygan Lutheran 60-54.
I only saw the part of the second half. I saw actually the last 7 minutes of this game. We got there a little late for that game, and but
getting there late and leaving early. Right?
Yeah, sorry. That a lot of hours of basketball. But one of the things that I thought Cochrane Fountain City did in the championship game to Sheboygan Lutheran, who had the size advantage, is they kept him in check pretty good. Didn't give him a lot of easy looks in there, and Cochrane Fountain City kept up on the aggressive on the offensive end. It was points in the paint for them, hit free throws down the stretch, which was a big deal. Every time they got fouled, there was a lot of poise there out of those kids. They all had their dyed blonde hair, so I think the right. the internet labeled that as something out of an Eminem video. So, but played really well and deserved that state title. Held that number 1 seed and had 2 nice wins down at state, especially when we thought Sheboygan Lutheran. I think. You, myself, and Coach went with the Abundant Life Christian. So, but you and I picked Sheboygan Lutheran. So, yep. Cochrane Fountain City proved us wrong.
There you go. Well, that's the state championship weekend. Coming up later, we'll kind of recap what the entire season meant here in Central Wisconsin. But coming up next, our coach guest here in the first hour. We'll talk to one of the coaches that was at the Kohl Center on the sideline, coaching at state. We'll talk about the experience and the season and the run in the postseason with Wausau East High School boys basketball coach Dan Garrett coming up in 1 minute here on 98.9 WXCO.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
It's the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. K5 Construction is a family-owned and operated custom builder in Central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and time to talk to one of our coach guests for this week. From Wausau East and the Lumberjack boys basketball program, glad to have back on the show, Dan Garrett. And Coach, number 1, congratulations on a terrific season that ended up at the Kohl Center.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys having me tonight.
I guess to start off, what was it like? I mean, obviously, for the players, it's incredible. And I think it's for the coaches as well. It had to be something else to be on the sidelines at the Kohl Center in a state tournament game.
Yeah, I still haven't really fully settled in, I guess, yet. I realized what we did, but it was an experience that I'll never forget. The WIA does a great job of taking care of us as well when you're down there, making you feel like you're special as well. So, it was awesome. During that week, we got out in the community, and the community, really showed up for us and showed out for us. So, it was awesome to be down there. It was awesome to coach on that floor. And my wife reminded me that, some really cool college coaches have coached on that bench before. So, I hadn't thought about that until she reminded me of that. So, pretty neat experience.
And Coach, I was hoping, I know we're doing this via phone. I was hoping to come in, so I guess this is my handshake too to congratulate you. But I really, congratulations. It was awesome watching you guys on, on TV and seeing, I know there's people in there and seeing all that culminate together. And this is, like I was saying before when we were wrapping up some of the state stuff, I saw a handful of your games this year, but not a ton. I really thought overall that was and you can tell us what you think, obviously, if that was one of the best games your team played. From the statistics were good, you guys came at them right away, you traded some blows, the kids kept coming at them even when Tosa West was up by a little bit. And what I really loved, which I give credit to the coaches for getting them ready and having all the kids on the same page as to what it means to be down there, because sometimes I've only been down there as a player, but you get so bug-eyed and the adrenaline kicks in and everybody's all fired up that it's getting under control and taking care of the basketball and making the most of your shooting percentages, because so many teams go down there and they turn the ball over and don't shoot well, and then sometimes they can't recover from that and only get the one shot to do it. I really thought statistically and just watching you guys perform that was one of the best jobs your team has done probably this season or over the last couple seasons. I really thought they played very, very well. Not that you have in other times, but I thought they played really, really well. And what I liked even too was when you went to the bench, guys came off the bench or other guys out there that weren't your normal heavy hitters with, like with Jaden and Kaylee and Negezik, coming in and people really focusing on keeping those guys in check. They went to the basket and did things and created things. Everybody seemed to be on the same page, I guess is what I'm saying. So kudos to you guys for getting everything ready. But what was your assessment of that game and how the kids came out ready to go and how they played?
Yeah, so, earlier that morning we had a shoot around, and I just reminded the kids that, you had worked your whole life for this moment, so don't let the moment be too big. Obviously it's a big moment and you're going to play on a big stage and there's going to be a lot of people there, but you've worked your whole life for this. So don't let this moment be too big. And I think I saw a lot of kids relax kind of in that moment after I said that. And I got to tell you, I'll be honest, I was going through it myself, emotionally and just there was a lot going on and I was trying to stay calm for the kids to make sure they were good, because if they see me, not good space, and they're not going to be in a good space. And I had caught a lob play to start the game. So
great call, by the way. I enjoyed that. That was fun.
I didn't want to mess up the lob play because they were nervous, And full disclosure, we tried the lob play about 5 or 6 times and shoot around. It didn't work at all.
But you still went for it, so I give you credit there. That's good.
Well, I went for it because I forgot to tell them not to go. If I'm being honest with you, there was so much going on, and I was nervous. I'm not gonna lie, I was super nervous, and I forgot to tell them. And when we started running the play, I looked at my coaches. I go, guys, I forgot to tell them about the lob. And by the time I turned back around, Jesse was dunking it. So I think that got us kind of calm and kind of settled into the game. We had done that the 3 previous games as well. At the beginning of the game or at the beginning of the half, and it seemed to kind of settle us down. So I thought to myself, actually I texted Jesse, earlier in the week and said, hey, how your legs feeling? If I draw something up, you want to dunk it? And he said, yeah. So, I forgot about him the first 2 games of the playoffs, and I wanted to make sure I didn't forget about him at the Kohl Center. So it worked out for us.
It was quite a physical game, wasn't it?
It was. I like physical play. It was a little more physical than I would have liked, I guess. But it was probably the most physical game that we had all year, if I'm being honest. And to be honest, I prefer it that way. I prefer it be physical and not, running to the free throw line every 3 seconds. So I had no issues with the officiating. I thought they did a really good job.
It was an interesting playoff run generally. You would have been in great shape, I think, if you got to Saturday, because every one of the rounds you were much better in the second game. You had a very tight 2-point game against East in your first playoff game, and then the second game dominated Menominee 68-35. Then you had an overtime thriller against New Richmond in the sectional semifinal, and then just dominated West Salem the second time around. Was that just coincidence? Was there something about your team just getting into a pretty good rhythm after playing the first game of the weekend and then just maybe being a little bit more relaxed? What was your take on those playoff games? Because it was very interesting to see the struggles in the semifinals of both the regionals and the semis and the sectionals, and then in the finals being just dominant against pretty good basketball teams.
I'll put those struggles squarely on me, and Jeff can probably attest to this. But when you have a lot of time to prepare for somebody, you can over prepare and try to prepare for every situation, and then you over prepare your team, and they're not playing. And I really feel like against Merrill, I think that's in a conference opponent. It was going to be a tough game no matter what. And if you look at a team like Marshfield, when they played Stevens Point there last time, it was a 1-point game.
Mm-hmm.
And they had took care of them pretty handily the first 2 times. So we knew that was going to be a tough game. But I think that team, when they didn't have a ton of time to think about who they were playing, and they just went out and played, they just played free. And after that Menominee game, I kind of just, my coaches said the same thing you just said, Chad. They said, hey, all we got to do is get to Saturday, and we're going to be good, because we play great in championship games. But I think you can over prepare at times. So I think that we, probably over prepared a little bit for Merrill and to a certain extent New Richmond. But when you only have a 1-day turnaround, you don't have a ton of time to over prepare. You only have a certain time to put things in, and I think we were just relaxed, in the Menominee game and the West Salem game, and we got to play, at home against Menominee, obviously, and then at West Salem we got to play at Rapids. So I think that was that made us comfortable as well, because we played there before, and we knew the layout, we knew the locker rooms and things like that. So I think the championship games just kind of lined up where it was just made us we were just in a comfortable space.
And Coach, again, another, I guess, congratulations in this way, because I until you actually live the journey and you build something to where you want it to be and you feel good about it and feel successful, how about, I guess, the journey from start to the state, from the start to the state of your time at East? I mean, when you came in, you had very, very young players. Every year it seemed like you kids would get another year of experience, but they were still always young. And then it kept going. We got a little higher in the conference, more wins, farther in the playoffs, the number 1 seat this year, getting down to state. It just all culminated from, I don't think always people maybe appreciate the time and efforts of everybody, from the coaching staff to what the players are putting in, to all that hard work. And I just think it's been an outstanding journey, well earned, well deserved from your program, from what you guys were able to do and represent, not only the Valley Conference but Central Wisconsin and getting down there. I think that's all a big deal, and props should be said for that. But how about your view of that journey? What you've seen along the way from start to getting down to state this year?
Well, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate the kind words. I always tell the kids every step matters. Every step in the journey matters, right? And I don't think we get to state this year, if we don't have all those tough times in the beginning. It helped me become a better coach. It helped the players become better players. And, I think when you go through tough times, you reevaluate things. And Jeff, this as a coach, you question yourself a lot, should I be doing this? Am I doing the right things? All that stuff. All that stuff comes into your mind, and you never really know if you're doing the right things, until you make a run like we made this year, and I feel like every step, every rung in the ladder matters, right? And we didn't skip a step in our process. Our first year we were just trying to get games in. In year 2. we had a goal of, trying to win a playoff game, and we didn't. And then we did. And year 3, we said we want to get a home playoff game. We just kind of made goals, smaller goals, until we were able to make a bigger goal. And the last couple of years, we've had a goal to get to state. I mean, that was our goal, and the last 2 years. It's been really cool to see the hard work that's been done by the senior group, who's really kind of been the catalyst to a lot of this. Those kids that work their tails off, and they're leaving a really, really, really strong legacy at Wausau East. So, I'm proud of the kids, and I'm proud of our community mostly. But it's important to not skip a step, and that's the advice I would give coaches and players, is to not skip a step. You can't go from 6 wins to 20 wins. You got to know how it feels to win 10 games or 11 games or go 500. You got to know how that feels, to me, in order to get to. Some coaches are lucky where they don't have to, but I wasn't as lucky. But I think I was lucky in the sense that I was able to go through those things and learned a lot through it.
And then you got to take the coach hat off for a minute. How cool! I just think, again, it's cool if when dads are coaches and they can live those moments with their own kids, and sometimes it's probably even harder to fully enjoy it because you got a lot of responsibilities to a whole team. I guess how neat was it getting to do this with your son? I mean, I just think that's a pretty perfect culmination where in his senior year, that's the moment you kind of crack through everything and you get down to the Kohl Center. And I gotta imagine, I'm hoping you guys had time to enjoy that together, because there's a lot of responsibility down there too, that everybody's trying to get to the game, to take care of it, to play the next day. But I think emotionally and from a family viewpoint, as a father and son, that's got to be pretty awesome.
I tell you what, it was pretty special, Jeff, to do that, and it's hard for me to even try to put it in words. I mean, you know that as a dad, how special it is to be able to coach your kid, and to be able to do that, on the Kohl Center floor was great. And I'm not usually a picture guy. I don't usually take pictures, and I don't usually have my phone out to take pictures, but I was taking a lot of pictures when we were there. So I was definitely, in the moment and trying to take every moment in. And, there was a time he actually fouled out. The first time he fouled out all year, with about a minute and a half left. And as he was walking off the court, he kind of hit me that was the last time he was going to walk off the court. And I got a little bit emotional, and then, all the other guys started walking off the court too. And it was just an emotional time because, not only with just my son, but, with those kids, I've known those kids that, since they started playing basketball. So, with those kids and with my son, we obviously have a special bond, and it was obviously special to be down there with your son, and it's hard to describe. It's hard to describe it, Jeff, honestly. Yep. Just the blessing it was to be able to do that, and to be able to do it his senior year, and knowing that was a goal that he had, and he was able to obtain that goal, was very special as well.
You touched a little bit earlier about the community coming around this group of young men and this basketball team. What did it mean for Wausau East to have this occur? Because there's been struggles in athletics for a number of years, but now we've seen some real building, a football playoff appearance in the fall, and now a state appearance in boys basketball. I imagine that the whole school, you get that positivity, and that goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy week in a good way. As soon as we won, our booster club, jumped into action and basically took everything from me, and our athletic director, made sure I didn't have to do anything besides, focus on the game. And they really did a good job of that. And our community was just awesome. We were able to visit elementaries throughout the week and have lunch with the youth players, and that was awesome. And they just really made us feel special. And there was times where kids were signing, foreheads and signing arms and shirts and things like that. And, I think they just made us all feel really special. And for Wausau East, just in general, I think, all of the struggles for the past, 10, 15 years, to have a run like this and to, like you mentioned, the football run as well, and kind of cap it off with this run, was really special. And I think our administration and our community just really, dove in and said, hey, we want to support the team and want to support you guys. And, there wasn't anything we wanted for. I mean, we had more snacks and food than we could ask for. And it was awesome. And like I said, they made us feel, it's a week I'll never forget.
Sometimes I think that sectional final game is just it's the toughest game because you're going in it, like you said, you want to be so prepared. You know what it means that you got so close if you don't get through it. And you guys came out and again, I texted you and Coach Lacert and said I don't ever remember seeing a running clock in a sectional final game. I mean, I just don't. And so you're getting kids played outstanding. They just owned it. Was there ever a point you got to sit back and say, hey, we're going, because that game you got in hand pretty good? Or were you always nervous and still worried, because you just want the final buzzer to go off? Or were you always, where you could take a moment and look around and be like, hey, we're going to the state. We're going to state. It was awesome. I mean, did you have that feeling, or did you still have the high anxiety of a coach that's just can't lose that focus and you got to wait till the buzzer goes off so there's no chance, nothing's left to chance?
So some history here, Jeff. There was 3 other blowouts like that, and Wausau East was involved in the other one.
Really?
The last time they made it to the sectional final when they lost to La Crosse Central. So
gotcha.
We were well aware of that history afterwards. But in the first half, West Salem had just played on Alaska a couple of days before that, and they were down 21 at halftime, and they came back and won. So the first half, I was coaching like it was 0-0. We went into halftime, and I think we were up 25 or 23 or something like that. And I told the guys, all gas, no brakes, all gas. We're not coming out of the press. We're I don't care if people get mad. We're gonna stay in it because I don't want them to come back. And then there was a flurry there with about 11 minutes left where Charlie took the rebound coast to coast and scored a layup. Jaden took a rebound shortly after that, coast to coast, and get a layup. And then Jesse stole the ball and got a 2-handed dunk. And the crowd, I'd never heard a crowd be as loud as that ever in my life. And I got emotional too, yelling and screaming. And it was after that timeout. They called the timeout, and it got really loud. It was after that timeout I looked up, and I think the score was, like 63 to 28, and I said to myself, I think we're going to win. And I started to just, think about all of the hard times that we had, and that we were about to go to state. And I just used that last 10 minutes to just think about, my son and the struggles that he had, and the struggles that I had, and the struggles that the program had, and that we were finally going to jump over that hurdle. So. There was a time with about 2 minutes left where I sat on the bench at the end of the bench, and I just kind of had my head down, and I did get a little bit emotional just thinking about it, and it was like we did it, we did it. But shortly after that, it was like, okay, who are we playing? Who are we going to play? And I need to get my mind ready for that. But I think my wife did a really good job of saying, you need to enjoy this today and tomorrow, and we'll think about the game. We'll think about the game on Monday. So. It was awesome, and I did get a chance to kind of think about all the tough times, but it was all worth it, like I mentioned earlier.
Jeff, anything else? Yeah,
one last thing. I had fun because again, when people scout and watch your team, obviously they know they're between Jaden and Kaylee and Nib Gezik, you want to keep those guys in check. You can't let them loose. You got to try to hold those 3 in check as best you can. But what I like watching about your team, and it just seemed from game to game, the confidence build from playoff game to playoff game, I should say, the confidence build in those other guys around it. Whether I saw Swinline go in and make that move down the lane with that nice finger roll, Vandersat just being all over the court, the reverse layups and grabbing ball, it just getting better and better. I love watching the confidence brew among the other guys that might have always been there. I just never noticed it as well. But from when I thought that was a big deal of all those guys coming together like that. And maybe it was something that was there all year long and I didn't notice it enough. But I enjoyed watching those moments, seeing as the games got bigger, everybody continually just to do their roles and get better at it. And sometimes that's hard to do because you can flatline and only max out what your abilities are at so much point. But I watched some of those guys around the supporting cast, around the main guys, just keep building. And I thought that was a big deal for your team as the playoff postseason progressed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, guys like Davis Winter, Jed Vanderson, and Teddy Schlenwine, Miles Casey, Robbie Anjuli, Xander Klein. Those are the guys that really, those are the guys, they don't get credit, but those are the guys that really get you to state. A guy like Jed Vanderson, and who's, he's not a three-point shooter, but he's hitting threes in games, and he's getting double-digit rebounds, and he only averages 3 rebounds a game. It's that type of kid that gets you to state, or Davis Winter stepping in and taking a charge in a big moment. You don't see those in the scorebooks, and Jesse scores 38, and everybody's saying that's awesome. But really, you're not giving the credit to the kid who took the charge early in the game that maybe sparked a run or something like that. And really, we had guys do that throughout our playoff run, and that's really what got us. I think what got us to the Kohl Center.
Wausau East High School boys basketball coach Dan Garrett, again, congrats. It's always such a wonderful experience for everybody involved in a program to earn their way to the state tournament. I hope you're getting a little chance to decompress a little bit, because I know it's a long winter high school sports season, but really glad you could spend a few minutes with us and relive that run to state. But thanks again, Coach.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, and I appreciate all you guys do for high school sports in our area.
Head coach of the Lumberjacks, Dan Garrett. We're going to take a timeout and be right back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
Melissa,
Chad, and Seth inviting you to come work with us. Civic Media is looking for a full-time sales professional to work with existing and new broadcast and digital media clients.
we're a fast-growing company that offers competitive wages, benefits, a relaxed working environment that focuses on quality of life, and includes a team of support to reach our shared goals.
Join us in continuing what we have done for 80 years. Be a part of the community, put into the community, celebrate community.
Find out more by contacting Chuck Gennaro at 715-935-8030 or email chuck.gennaro@civicmedia.us. All inquiries are confidential. Civic Media Incorporated is an equal opportunity employer, and we look forward to you joining us.
Hey Wisconsin, it's construction season, and the Wisconsin DOT wants to help you safely navigate work zones. Check 511wi.gov or download the app for roadwork or closures on your route. Know before you go with 511 Wisconsin, sponsored by the Wisconsin DOT.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And again, I mean, winter sports season is a long grind. And actually, one thing I was thinking about asking is, I mean, the last 2 games of the regular season, they got whipped. They lost to Stevens Point 81-53. They lost to Everest 88-67. To have those kind of losses and then be able to reset, I thought that said a lot about that team as well.
Oh yeah, I think it's part of the playoff experience for a lot of teams. You get I don't know if it's a new chance. You get time to kind of get back to what you want to accomplish. And I thought their playoff, I mean, everybody, Coach Garrett alluded to it, how hard, because Merrill's in conference, and they always war with Merrill, and that was going to be a tougher game, but they came out and handled some teams that, a little familiarity with, but not a ton, because they haven't seen them or haven't played them, and they went to town on it. I watched, this is just, again, my outside opinion of watching those games. I saw the confidence level brew in the role players. I saw the other guys just start to take over. And when you get that domino effect where everybody's kicking it together on the same cylinder, it's really a lot of fun to watch. And it just builds from game to game. More people come out. The community's there. There's, like Coach was talking about, how noisy that gym was. And the confidence just thrives. And you can fight through some mistakes you make because everybody's playing well together. And it just culminates into good games played by a very good team. And it adds to your program. And I think for coach and his kids from start to finish. What a great measure. And I think his explanation of small goals, not overwhelming the kids. Let's just make it here, and then let's see what we got next. I thought that's a great way to get your kids to understand the journey and how much it is a process. And it's not all about the, like he said, some things can be instantaneous, but most of the time it's not. And I think that's a good point to make. And I give them props. They did an outstanding job. And I thought they played Tosa West tough down there. And it had a good showing for their team.
Let's talk generally about high school basketball. Boys, girls. I mean, we'll try to touch on it at the end of the next hour as well. But what were some of the things that jumped out to you this year? Was there a team? Was there a coach? Obviously, you know these coaches so very well that you thought, man, did a great job this season. Was there a story that kind of popped up? What caught your attention? I mean, there's so much, but
that's a loaded question. You could really make friends and enemies out of it. I'm just kidding.
I'm talking about positives.
I know.
I'm not asking you for your biggest disappointment so far.
I'm kidding. I know. Okay, I'll start with that and then cut me off and jump in when you think I've talked too much. I liked the Valley Conference overall. It was the deepest wars that you've seen in a while from top to bottom. I thought, even the way the coaches talked about Rapids, who struggled, they won one conference game, how they talked about they didn't want to run into them because they still had some abilities to
They
upset
went to Wausau East and won, and East went to the state tournament.
Yeah, I did the conference from, to have two teams down there at state, one playing in the championship and one in the state semifinal was just a good year. And you watched West, and we saw Everest and Merrill and those teams play really, really good basketball throughout the thing. I just thought the conference was really deep, and I think that's what you want as a spectator, is just this war. So I was impressed with just the overall Valley Conference itself. I mean, the Merriwood South seems to be always that. They're always warring during the conference, and then
they always win 20+ games, those top three teams.
And then it playoffs again. So that was predictable. That was there. The GNC, I think, for Rhinelander to take over that top spot was a big deal. I mean, you know what you're getting out of Medford and Mosinee, and for them, it was only by one more win and one less loss, but they held their own, and they won some of the games they needed to win.
I was just say, I think of all the teams that we kind of keep an eye on with these conferences, I don't think anybody did a better job in bigger games during the regular season than Rhinelander. They beat Mosinee, who's a very talented team, twice. They went into that Medford gym, that's a tough place to play, in the last game of the regular season and won that game in order to win the conference championship. So I thought, again, sometimes you think, they had some hiccups in their non-conference, and you think, well, how good are they? Well, when they needed to be good, they were really good.
Yep, and then the consistency. I mean, they could have. That New Richmond game was tight, where they could have been playing East again.
And late in that game, I remember watching that game. Yep. You just hope that it's not the last 3 minutes of a playoff game where the lid goes on the hoop.
And they struggled to score.
It just happens.
And a couple key turnovers. I also like the fact that the sectional semi was at Prentice Rib Lake. I think they both made it to that.
Yep.
So to get that far gave the North some props on the boys' side. That's all I got for the boys' side. I was going to shift to the girls. But we got something else.
Well, we got about a little more than a minute to go, and we'll try to touch again on some of the girls' activity maybe a little bit later on. But again, really, I think on the boys' side, the conferences that we watch were very entertaining this year. I just think that, as you said, I think the Valley was exceptionally good every.
You're listening to Civic Media. Stay up to date on the latest news and information for your local community and Wisconsin by signing up for our free email newsletter. Visit civicmedia.us/email to get started.
And welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO. and on the Civic Media app, brought to you by K5 Construction. K5 Construction is a family-owned and operated custom builder in central Wisconsin that stands out from the rest for its commitment to quality and excellence. From design and planning to final construction, K5 Construction delivers superior results on every project. Again, it is our final episode of the season. Yep, we start just before football. We go through football season, then we go through the winter, which is a long season. And Jason Foster with me during the fall, and here Jeff Gress during the winter. And our final student-athlete guest for this season from Wausau West Hockey and Wausau West Football, Cooper DePoint. And Cooper, thanks for coming on in.
Thanks for having me.
I know you just got back from spring break.
Yeah.
So the timing was good. But number one, congratulations on a terrific season. And obviously, let's start with the team aspect. What did it mean making it to the state tournament?
I think it was really big for the Wausau West culture. I think that's something we kind of talked about, the culture of the locker room, and it was just awesome to get to state and kind of bring back that culture to Wausau West, because we haven't been there obviously in 6 years, and that's something that we're not really used to. I think we're just there so much that we had to bring it back, so it was awesome being back there.
And how much does that change for next? You know what I mean? Because you get a taste of it again. And it just until you get the champion, you win the championship. I got to imagine it just creates this hunger and this domino effect. Among the drive's just got to go up, even though it's already there. It's got to escalate even more. I'm assuming for the next season.
Definitely, I think that 8-4 loss kind of stung at state, especially in front of all those people. So I think everybody's going to want to be back there next year, and I think that'll give us a good off season, and hopefully we'll be back there next year.
Looking at yourself, obviously you've had a lot of experience. You played as a freshman, you played as a sophomore, you play as a junior. We'll talk a little bit about the outside hockey, high school hockey season. You're on the ice so much. How have you changed as a player over these 3 years? So what is different about Cooper DePoint now as he's finished up his junior year than when he first went on the ice for the start of his freshman year?
I think definitely at Wausau West, I've changed a lot with Coach Brandt and Coach Brownie. I think they've kind of changed me as a player completely. I think my freshman year I had lots of frustration and took penalties and less points, and obviously just been going up into my junior year, and now I've taken a lot less penalties. I think the frustration's gone down. That makes me a better teammate too. I think from freshman year there's a lot of big differences with that.
Real fast, I want to kind of ask to build on that. You've been asked to carry a lot of weight as a younger player because you've been one of the leading scorers for the Warriors the last couple of years. Has that been difficult where they're asking you to be maybe a leader very early in your high school career?
I think, having to be a leading scorer and I wouldn't say that gives me a lot of weight. I think, there's other leaders on the team that also have a lot of effect, even if they don't, score a lot of points or get a lot of goals. I think I know that I have to be a leader on and off the ice for our team, but I think there's a lot of other guys that help me too and kind of take that weight off of my shoulders a little bit. I think, Chase Crass, he scores just as many points as me, and Owen Progolski, like my line especially, I think is a big part of my success because they help me take off some of the weight off my shoulders and kind of set me up for those points.
Right. And before jumping into anything more of the team aspect, obviously Chad talked about from freshman to sophomore to junior year. I think also in that time you get a lot of time to analyze yourself as a player and what you mean to your team and what you got to work on individually. Anything that jumps out to you that you think now with this wanting to get back to state all that much more because you've had a little taste of it on top of what you've analyzed in your own play, anything you're going to work on big time for your senior year that you think you have to add to your game to diversify it or just refine it or make it a little bit more polished?
I think, from freshman to junior year, I've kind of worked on getting shots onto the net as quickly as I can, and I think that's something I'll work on again is just getting shots on net. In the off season, that's kind of one of the easiest things to work on is your shot because you don't really need an ice sheet to work on it. You can do it off ice. So I think definitely my shot is something that I'll work on in the off season, and then getting pucks deep. I think that's something that I tried to work on too this season, and then also my defensive zone. I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen from freshman to junior year is just my defensive zone and how much more seriously I've taken it, and I think it kind of shown this year.
Let's talk about the playoff run, because I was talking to you before you came on the air. It was such an exciting run. I mean, I don't know if anybody that got to the state tournament had more thrills than Wausau West hockey, because in your first playoff game, you fell behind Superior, 3 different times,
Yep.
Never led until overtime, ultimately able to win in OT. Then we're down by 2 goals in the third period against a really good New Richmond team, and you were able to score the game winner in the final seconds to win it 6-5. And then in the sectionals, a great game and a great environment against a perennial rival and power, Eau Claire Memorial. What was that ride like? What was it for you and your teammates? Did it feel like kind of a wave for those 9 days or so?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of a big wave. I think it was really energetic and it was a fun ride. And I think the only people that really kind of believed that we could get it done and go to state was the people in the locker room and the fans. I think there's a lot of people that went into the season thinking it was just going to be like another sophomore year, and we were going to go 500, go 16 and whatever we went. And I think the only people that believed that we could get it done was the people in the locker room. And I think that's a big reason why we had the run we had, because the people in the locker room believed that we could get it done, and just grew together as playoffs went on.
Let me ask you this, because there are ups and downs in the season, and you talk about that need for belief, because if you don't have the belief, you're not going to get it done as a team. Was there any point in the season where you thought, because as you said, I mean, a year ago you lost in a regional final. As you said, West had not been to state in 6 years. Was there any point this season where you thought, hey, this is coming together? This feels different?
Yeah, I think that holiday tournament over at Notre Dame was definitely a big turning point for our team. I think, before that, we kind of had a little rough start off 3-3, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And then, we kind of picked it up. We went on a little streak, and then we got to our holiday break. We came back. We had our holiday tournament, and I think we lost one that kind of stung to St. Mary Springs, pretty big, 6-2, I think it was. And, I think after that we had a meeting in the lobby, and Brant kind of told us we can choose which direction we go. If we want to be like last year, then we just got to – I think we didn't pick that direction, obviously, and I think we came back the next day and took it to Verona and then took it to Notre Dame too, and that was definitely the turning point.
Let me ask you another point about that week in Green Bay. After that game against Springs, the next game, everybody was sitting down on the bench.
Yeah,
and it was really funny because somebody that was, I think, one of the parents, like in the first intermission, comes up to me and says, "Well, what are they doing? Why are they doing that?" I said, "I don't know. Nobody told me anything." What was the point of all your guys changing from standing on the bench to sitting down on the bench? Because I don't know if it was coincidence or not, you started winning a lot more hockey games after that.
I think that was definitely a choice that the team made, and Brant talked about it in our meeting after the St. Mary Springs game. He talked about which direction we want to go and how we have to make choices as a team, and that was one of the little choices we made, was to sit down during the game. We changed our warm-up, did a little more stretching before the game, and it definitely showed on the ice, especially against Verona, taking it to them 7-1, and then Notre Dame 2-1 too. So
then it was off to the races.
Yep.
In that moment, when because I know coaches can sit and say it, but you got to have the buy-in. Everybody's got to believe it. Everybody's got to actually accomplish it. Everybody's got to. It's one thing to say it; it's another thing to do it. Mm-hmm. Through your conversations or practice, what ultimately changed among the players, besides the stuff that might look like it's the sitting down or standing up, ritualistic stuff. What in your mind actually changed it? Like, hey, we're getting down to business. Was there a moment of players talking? Was there a just practice workout where you come to fruition to believe that this can happen and you make it happen?
I think just we talked about not being a state in 6 years for Wausau West, and like the Wausau West hockey, they're historic. They're for going to state, and they're known for going to state and being one of the top teams in the state. And I think we were just kind of sick of being a 500 team and being second place in the Valley Conference every year, losing to Spash. And I think we just wanted to turn that around, and we wanted to start winning games and go back and bring that culture back to West. So I think that was definitely one of the mindsets that we had as a team. Just everybody wanted to win. They were kind of sick of losing and being average, I guess.
Again, we're talking to Cooper DePoit from Wausau West, junior for the Warriors, on the ice and on the gridiron here on 98.9 WXCO. I want to ask you about football, because obviously you got a lot of, I think, hopes, and you got a lot of talent, and I think probably a very bright future on the ice. What put you on the football field? Because you played I don't think you played as a freshman, did you? Or did you not?
I played as a freshman, not on varsity.
Okay.
Yep.
But obviously being a multi-sport athlete, and I think that's a great thing for anybody in the high school level. What's it about football that has driven you in, and obviously had a really good year in the fall?
I've been playing football actually since 4th grade, so I've been around it just as much as hockey. I think it's something I enjoy just as much as hockey. It's kind of hard to pick between the two, especially because hockey's a year-round thing. It's not really a specific season for hockey, so it's hard to choose between the two, but I think football is definitely something I enjoy just as much as hockey, and I love being out there.
Offense or defense on the football field, because you play both?
That one's hard, definitely. I love playing both. I think I love playing running back because I just get to hit anybody when I get the ball, so I think that's something I enjoy, but I also love hitting on defense, so I think both of them I can't really choose.
Is there a highlight you had last season during the football season?
I think my first game against Hudson, I think I had to sit out the Superior game because of something that happened in the hockey during playoffs. I got kicked out of that game against Hudson last year for hockey, so I had to sit out the first football game. And I think my first game back against Hudson at home was
full circle, right?
Yep.
Any similarities between the two sports that stand out for you that make them a big deal why you play hockey and football?
I think the physicality and the team aspect was two of the reasons I love both of the sports. I think the team aspect and just being around all the guys is definitely one reason I enjoy both of the sports. And then the physicality for sure, being able to hit a little bit. I love that too, and I think that's something that I enjoy. So.
And we won't ask you which one you like better, especially since Coach Brandt coming in sometime soon here. But what about any differences in the sport that makes you like the two of them a certain way?
Yeah, I think obviously one's on ice, one's on grass, but I think there's not a lot of guys that kind of play both ways for football. It's more offense or defense, and I think that's one of the big differences, because in hockey, if you can play offense but you can't play defense, you're not going to be out there. Right. So I think that's definitely the biggest difference of the two.
Let's step away from the sports for a moment. What's your favorite class in school?
Hard to think about on spring break, but yeah. Go for it.
I would say probably science or math are two of my better subjects, so I'd say one of those two for sure.
And obviously you're very busy, but when you do have a little time to maybe decompress a little bit, maybe get away from the hockey and get away from the football, get away from school, what do you like to do?
I like being outdoors and being on the lake. I think that's something I enjoy a lot. I like going up north and going on the lake at my grandpa's house. We also have lots of animals, so I enjoy being around them too.
Will any of those interests between what you said you like about your classes in school, based on just what you like to do in the free time, and I know you got a little bit of time to decide on this, will any of that venture into what you want to do with higher education? Have you thought about that yet? I know it comes on at different times with people where they got to kind of decide what they want to do next, but have you thought about that at all? What you want to do after you graduate, even though I know you're only a junior?
I have thought a little bit about it. I think something medical is kind of what I'd like to do, but I haven't really fully decided. I got a little bit of time. So.
And hockey is a little different than these other sports, because it normally goes from high school to college.
Right.
Hockey is different. It's different in a lot of ways. Before we talk about that future aspect, what is your hockey calendar like for people that may not be familiar? Because it is different than really many of the other sports.
Yeah. It's year round. It's not really there's not a really specific season for it. I get 4 weeks off here, and then I go right back to tryouts and then playing hockey again. So I think it's year round, which is a lot different than other sports, and I just get a lot of opportunities to play it.
And when it's not high school, what teams? What are you involved with?
It's when it's not high school, I play Tier 1 with Team Wisconsin. So that's that season is kind of a before and after season. So we'll go and play our regular season with Team Wisconsin during the spring, and then we'll play summer, and then we'll go back to high school, and then after that we'll come right back to Team Wisconsin, and then.
Let me ask you, because I know there's been in the past some players that actually don't even finish their high school and they go on to play juniors. Is that something that has been on the radar at any point during your hockey career? What are your thoughts on that?
I think juniors is definitely something I want to do. You kind of it's kind of hard to explain. Hockey's a little bit of a different sport. You don't really go to college right after high school, so juniors is definitely something that I want to do, and hopefully go and play college after that.
And being naive on the junior stuff, is that something you have to go seek out of what would be the best fit for yourself, or do they come calling a little bit and invite you, or is it a combination of both of that selection process to jump into that stuff?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a combination. I mean, they obviously seek you and they find you if they want you on their team, but also you have to find the best fit for you, because there's lots of junior leagues out there, and some are not as good as others, and you just have to find the best fit for you that gets you to where you want to go next.
Do you have something that you have your eye on? If you got to pick that you'd say, yeah, this is what I want to accomplish, I feel good about playing there. Is there something on the radar that you're thinking about?
If I got to choose, it'd definitely be the USHL. I mean, that's a difficult league to play in, so I think if I were able to choose, that'd definitely be where I'd want to go.
And to get into that league, is there anything you would have to add to your game after your high school career to make that happen, you think, of what you've witnessed so far with that league?
I think it's a really skilled league, and it's high pace, and there's a difference between there's the NAL and the USHL, and the NAL is a little more physical of a league, and the USHL is more of a finesse league, more skilled, and I think I would just need to pick up the pace a little bit.
So always bigger, stronger, faster.
Bigger, stronger, faster, exactly.
And I mean, it's amazing how competitive it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, being multi-time All-State, I mean, you've obviously accomplished a lot on the high school level. We've seen others accomplish a lot. But when you get to that level, boy, the competition, I don't think people understand how good the competition is in the juniors.
Yeah, it's a lot faster pace. It's lots of Division I commits in both the USHL and the NAL, so I think just the pace of everybody there, and they all want to get to the next level, so I think the competition is a little bit higher than both high school and then Tier 1. It's a different level of the game, I guess.
And when you look at, say, Team Wisconsin right now and your high school games, what's the biggest difference when you're involved with Team Wisconsin as opposed to Wausau West?
I mean, they're both really fast. I think Team Wisconsin and the teams we play, we're competing against some of the best teams in the country for Tier 1 level, and I think it's just the pace of the game is a little bit different with both of them. So,
Does it ever difficult? Like, I know, like on the basketball end, this is the only comparison I can come up with. Sometimes it's difficult for players to jump from their AAU teams back to their high school team, just because there's differences in what's there or not there. Do you ever find it that there's a little bit of a transition period once one season starts and stops, or is it pretty easy for you to maneuver through that?
I think there's a little bit of a difference just with the pace, but I mean, overall, like, everybody wants to compete for Team Wisconsin in high school, so I think it's not that difficult of a switch to go to high school. It's just playing with different people, so I kind of got to get used to that a little bit.
I guess now going into your senior year soon, you still have some work to do as a junior. What are you looking at for your senior year, both with football and hockey? Well, maybe have you thought about what you want to accomplish over that next year?
Yeah, I think. I mean, hockey, I'm sure everybody and me are going to want to go back to state and hopefully win it this time. In football, I think just be a playoff team again this year and win as many games as we can. I think it's hard to decide between the two a lot of the time because Team Wisconsin pulls me from football sometimes, and I can't really pass up the opportunities I get with Team Wisconsin, so it's a really difficult choice, I'd say, to decide between going to football or going to hockey. So that's all up in the air, I'd say, and I have to decide between the two. And
well, let me ask you that because obviously, again, your success on the ice has led to opportunities, and it makes it for a hard choice because in order to be what you want to be on the gridiron, there has to be that certain commitment as well. It would be very easy just to say, I'm going to be a hockey player. I'm going to completely focus on it. I guess if the one thing that keeps you wanting to be a football player, what is it?
I think the team aspect, and I love being around those guys, and I love the coaches, and I like playing running back, and I like playing linebacker, and I've just been around football for so long, and it just it's hard to decide, and it really sucks, but it's a decision that I have to make, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet.
Well, I mean, you're going to make a lot of decisions as you get older. Believe us, we've had to make a lot of decisions. Anything else, Jeff, before our final question?
I was just going to ask, I know, again, only a junior, but I think high school sports is such a big deal, and getting to play those, and just the way you're talking about, we're talking about decisions down the road that you got to make, but you probably just felt like you started your junior year, and where's it go? It's gone already. Yep. I'm going to be a senior soon. What's the most enjoyable part about getting to be a high school athlete?
I think just being around my friends, and a lot of the guys that go and play juniors and go and play for other hockey teams, they don't get to be around their friends and be in the high school and feel what it's like to be a high school athlete. So I think just being around my friends and getting to play the sports that I love with them, those are the two biggest things that I think I enjoy most about being a high school athlete.
And we always finish up, and usually more often with a senior, but you've been around, I mean, when you play multiple years of varsity athletics and the football and the hockey, based on what you've learned, and if you were to give some advice to a freshman just starting their journey, what piece of advice would you give somebody that's just starting off in varsity athletics at Wausau West as a freshman?
I think one of the biggest things I looked at this year was just next play and focus on the next play, next shift, next game, the little things each time I come off the ice, not getting frustrated with everything, and just focusing on myself. So I think don't overthink things and just focus on the next play.
Cooper DePoit, again, congratulations on a terrific hockey season and a terrific football season. Best of luck as you navigate the future, and again, really appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
That's Cooper DePoit, junior from Wausau West High School. We'll take a time out and then talk some more hockey with the head hockey coach at Wausau West, BJ Brandt, coming up next. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
State champions crowned at the boys basketball state tournament. I'm Norbert Durst, and this is a WisSports.net Minute, brought to you by Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells. More high school sports news after this.
You may have heard of Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells, one of the country's premier destinations for youth sports and events, but did you know that Just a Game does so much more? Just a Game also delivers end-to-end apparel, equipment, and event solutions. With their state-of-the-art screen printing and embroidery facility, they can help with branding for your team and business items, including uniforms, apparel, and more. Just a Game also offers digital services that include a cashless digital platform and event live streaming. Just a Game has also added a second brand new facility in Reedsburg. Find more information at justagame.com.
The 109th WIAA Boys Basketball State Tournament was held Thursday through Saturday at the Kohl Center in Madison. In Division I, Wisconsin Lutheran won the state title, beating Marshfield 57-55. The Vikings were the D2 state champions last season. Wauwatosa West captured the Division II state championship, topping Racine Park in an overtime thriller 60-57. In Division III, Milwaukee Academy of Science took home the gold ball, defeating Freedom 57-54. Aquinas claimed the Division IV state title, cruising to a 74-45 victory over Bonduelle. In the first state championship game, Cochrane Fountain City beat Sheboygan Lutheran 60-54 to win the D5 state title. First-time state champions included Wauwatosa West, Milwaukee Academy of Science, and Cochrane Fountain City. Shifting the focus to spring sports, track and field meets started last week. Softball and lacrosse begin games this week, and Monday was the first day of practice for baseball and girls soccer. Their first games are next week. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and final half an hour here of the season. It's started back in August. This goes by so quickly, and then we'll be back in August again, and you'll be back in the winter. And but guy that we bring in when Jeff has some school activities, I'll say, Coach BJ Brandt, can you come on in? We're going to talk some hockey here. And he was always very nicely comes in and co-hosts the program. But good to have you back.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Chad. It feels like winter is still here.
I know it does. But, I mean, obviously, since you've been on this program, we talked to Cooper about it. What a run in the playoffs. I mean, it had to have been, I said it was like a wave. You just ride that wave. I mean, such excitement. I mean, by the way, I went to the doctor yesterday, and they said my blood pressure's a little high, and I just blamed it on calling those hockey games.
Well, I tell you, when you think about, like, as a coach, you get a chance here to reflect a little bit on the season, and people ask, well, are you sad about the loss at Notre Dame, and it's that's too short-sighted. You got to look at the big picture here, and if you look at I listen to Coop, and it's a lot of things we talk about, and we're 3-3, and the kids had to make a choice around December, and sometimes as a coach you want to control everything. Mm-hmm. And you want to be able to, you control this, you control that, you try to make sure that they're all set up and ready to go, and you do. But honestly, as a coaching staff, we had to let go of some things and basically put it on the guys and say, hey, like, you guys have to make a choice here. Like we've set you up for success. You have the skill and ability to be successful. And right now, you need to find a way to come together and make a choice. And we had, you mentioned the meeting in Green Bay. It wasn't a good meeting. There wasn't a lot of happy talk. There was a lot of accountability. There was a team film session where we were asking questions and they couldn't answer the questions. They were basic hockey questions, and it was either A, they were afraid to answer, or B, they weren't prepared. And so as a coaching staff, you go back to all right, well, let's make sure they're prepared and then let them make the choices. And obviously you talked about sitting down and one of the things as a coach we always do, we kind of give them 3 words before every game. These are the things we want to focus on, whatever. At that point, I said, all right, this is on you guys. Like, you've seen me now, some of you guys, for a lot of games, and you understand what the expectations are. You know what it means to be a West hockey player. You know what it means to be successful. You've seen both sides of this. I'm going to give you freedom on this. They're your 3 words. You tell me what the 3 words are that we need to focus on or that we need to be during a game. And at that point, man, some of them were terrible. I mean, terrible. But you had to let it go and just work with it and work with them, and different guys gave different words. It wasn't always a senior. It wasn't always a captain. It was somebody else identifying something we needed to be that day or we needed to do in that game. And that was, for me, I loved it because it's a little bit of you as a coach being reflected back to you a little bit, and just watching them. And then you get to the playoffs. I mean, obviously we went on a run after the December part, had a little hiccup down at Spash, went back to some old ways. And again, you get to watch the film and look at it. And
right.
You don't want to. I mean, you don't want to. You don't want to watch that film because it doesn't make you feel good. But as much as we watch the film to make us feel good and learn things, you have to learn why did we put ourselves in this situation. And we had a few moments of that after that, but the playoffs are exciting. I mean, a 2-7 matchup versus Superior 7 seed. Come on, give me a break. And they came down, and we never led until the end. Damrow to Damrow to win it, and the place went bananas, and it was so fun to get with the guys after the game, and we got a big group hug. I mean, it was so exciting and emotional, and then you go into New Richmond. New Richmond was wild.
Yes,
I mean, you go into that game thinking with our goaltending and the way we were playing at the time, to think that we had to have a score 6 to win, you wouldn't have believed it. And that place was packed. It was probably one of the biggest places, most packed Marathon Park has been for a high school event in a long, long time. And from youth kids to, we had a local person donate any youth kid that wanted to go. They paid for, and it just made the environment electric. It made it fun for these young kids. And one of the things I tell the guys, like, it's okay to look in the stands once in a while. Like, just take it in, because they're here to watch you. And at one point you were 6 and you were 7 and you were 8 watching the high school game. I go, that's those guys. And that's, my little guy was a part of it, and it was fun just to watch. And obviously you go to Chippewa and beat a tough Eau Claire Memorial team and played from ahead, which was weird. And just a fun run. It was super exciting, super emotional. Just a great season.
Well, I was going to add this to you, because once Chad told me you were joining us, and this it became a complete hockey show with not a lot of basketball. That's sarcasm. I'm totally kidding. But my son and I were getting our hair cut, and we're sitting down, and she asked what we did, and we said we went to the boys' state game. Well, the lady next to me, her kid's getting her hair cut in her chair, and she's like, yeah. Well, and then she brings up, West was down there and went to state for the hockey, and my kids are hockey kids. And I think that's the coolest thing, is how that culminates from the moment that it is for those kids and the current coaching staff and the program at that moment, all the way down to the kids watching the stands and wanting that and seeing that excitement, because I think it just snowballs. And I think that's the coolest thing, when people well removed just because of the age of their kid, or enough removed because of the age of their kids, it culminates. It's a big deal. So
it's a big deal. I mean, I think, we had a ton of alumni reach out, because when we went to the 2-division model, our sectional became a state tournament. And I think when you look at it as a coach and you're realistic, you think, okay, it's going to take a really special group to get through this sectional and to get back to, the 17 prior times we had made it to the state tournament as a one division animal. And for us to get through it and do it the way that we did was just such a character building experience for those kids. I mean, for them to believe they can play from behind, down 2 goals twice against New Richmond. They had to decide which, you talk about little life and little microcosms of the game. Like, there's going to be times in your life that you have to make a decision, and you hope that you make the right one. And like I told them in December, I said, there is really only one decision to make, and you guys just have to make it. I mean, you can not decide to do anything, and we know what that gets us. Or you can decide to do it the right way and do it the way that I think you want to. And it was super exciting, and the ripple effect within the community was so fun. You get texts from people that you haven't heard from in a long time. I mean, Pete and I haven't talked in person probably since the summer, because we hang out at the lake once in a while for some celebrations, and he sent me a text. He's like, you'll always remember number 200. Because that was my 200th win, and it's sectional final against Eau Claire Memorial. I mean, just super, super exciting to be a part of it, and obviously just a small little part of the program, and just really, really fun season. And I know Coop said it, and it was really quick after the season. Like, the guys were ready for next season right now. I mean, they wanted next season right now, and they understood that we got to celebrate the seniors and what they accomplished, and I think they were ready to not necessarily turn the page, but keep writing the chapter.
Let me ask you something, because you talked about maybe giving up a little control and asking the kids to take a little bit more on their shoulders in terms of the leadership. Would you have been able to do that earlier in your head coaching career? Is this something that you've been able to develop, or is it just that situation called for that? Have you changed in any way in the past decade in terms of you as the head hockey coach at West?
Yeah, I think, when you transition from assistant coach for Pete and to head coach, the biggest change is nobody talks to you. Like, that's the biggest change. I mean, when you're the assistant, it was okay to talk to me because they didn't want to talk to Pete. And that was the biggest change, and then you think about what you learned from Pete and Steve and those guys have been there for so long, and you try to put your little twist on the things that they did and just modernize a little bit and connect with kids in different ways, To answer your question, I don't think 5 years ago, I don't think I could have given up that control. Mm-hmm. You just, you see kids mature throughout their career, and as a coach, you learn from your past, you learn from your experiences, you learn when to. I mean, you're like Ian over there. You're pushing the right buttons to make sure the show goes in the right direction, and you want to make sure you're pushing the right buttons at the right times. And this year, giving up that control was I think what our group needed, because they needed leadership, and it needed to not be from me or the coaches, and it was fun to watch them, develop that within the group.
When you. Hey, because so many times you have that conversation with players, or you put them on the spot and say, look, if you guys got everything, you've got to figure it out a little bit because you're young adults and this is the real world. Did you think it would culminate to go that far and get down? And was that your expectations off that? Or did you have some baby steps involved in thinking of what did you think would come of that by giving them that talk? I think they said at the Green Bay game. What were your hopes or what were you realistic? Or I mean, you can sound great too and say, yeah, this is exactly what's going to happen.
I think any coach would lie with that, though.
You could run with it right now.
Yeah, you could. But I think for me, it was they needed to own this. I mean, there was they needed to have enough ownership in it where they cared at what the result was, and that was, you talk about the process, and everybody uses generic terms. The process, the process is ugly. I mean, we had some horrible team meetings. I mean, tension and just anger, but there was an environment where guys could release that within our group, and it stayed in our room, and it stayed within us, and it helped us. Some guys didn't understand why guys were acting the way they were, so they had a conversation, and we talked about it, and in those conversations, it's not always hugs and happiness. It's yelling, it's chaos, and that's part of the growth of these kids, is to learn each other, learn how to deal with people that don't think like them, to learn how to deal with people that don't learn like them, and I think that was a huge part of it, was for me just to say, hey, like, we might have to go through some chaos here, and we had to, and for them to own it like they did was fun to watch, and to think that you'd get to the state tournament. Like, I think for us in our program, that's the goal every year. Mm-hmm. But you don't just start on November 7th and say, we're going to state. There's a path, and every year that path is totally different, and sometimes you get there and sometimes you don't, but it was really fun to watch this group come together, and I mean, when we had the last locker room, it's as a coach, that's the toughest one, and I tell them all the time, I don't know what to say right now other than take some time and reflect in a couple days, and it's okay to be emotional, it's okay to cry, it's okay to do all of those things, because you've just put 6 months worth of work, and we didn't win the last game. Right. And I think it's to have our last game in locker room down there was totally different than the previous few years, and as a coaching staff, we couldn't be more proud of them.
Again, we're talking to BJ Brandt, head hockey coach at Wausau West High School, here on 98.9 WXCO. Let's kind of step away and talk big picture hockey this year. Obviously, you were in the conference with the best team in the state for the regular season, which is what we have to say, because they were not the best team in the state in the postseason, but they still did an incredible job at 24-0 in the regular season. When you look at high school hockey, and especially here in the central Wisconsin area, maybe the Valley, the GNC, what's your sense about where hockey is on the high school level here in central Wisconsin?
I mean, I think it's at a good place. I think you look at teams that were in sectional finals, teams that were making deep runs. I think there's a lot of the teams here. Tomahawk, obviously, super successful. Making it to the semifinals a year ago, and then getting through their bracket and winning the final game there. And it's fun to watch those guys. I mean, it's just like basketball, right? So you have the AAU world of basketball where they get to meet people from other communities, and they're playing against and playing with people, and it's no different in the hockey world. Like, these guys on our team will play with the guys from Tomahawk, they'll play with the guys from Point, they'll play, they mix up in the off seasons here and put some teams together. So there's some camaraderie there between those guys. But I feel like it's in a pretty good place. I feel like, when you look at who's going to be good over these next few years, I think you're going to include a lot of Central Wisconsin teams in that. Obviously, Notre Dame's going to be good still. Edgewood's still going to be good. They were young. Mm-hmm. Notre Dame was really young to get to where they got to, and obviously played well against us. And, it's just, I think when you look at the picture, my concern is we're shrinking a little bit statewide, and that's not going to be great for our sport. But I think my hope is that there's good numbers coming in communities where some of these co-ops can break up, and that's a whole nother, Chad, you and I could have a whole show about co-ops. But I think when you look at the on the girls' side and on the boys' side in Central Wisconsin, hockey's in a pretty good place.
Let me kind of go in that direction here, because we've talked a lot about, because we want to see ice hockey in the state of Wisconsin grow. We wanted to have the best state tournament. We wanted to have the best regular season. And at times it feels as though the discussions are not serious, in my point of view. That people who should be talking to each other don't talk to each other as much as they should, and don't attempt to fix some problems. Do you think that at this point we can take those steps? Because, again, there's still, it takes a long time to fix a lot of issues, and we found that out. But do you think that the stakeholders realize that we need to be better?
Well, I have to be careful, Chad. I have a meeting with the WIA next Tuesday. I think, yeah, go ahead.
Take a note.
No, we'll record this for you. No notes needed. I think, one of the challenges is with the WIA is they're so big that when the basketball coaches meet with them to talk about basketball, when the hockey coaches meet to talk about hockey, their job, or what they appear to be their job, is to figure out what commonalities can live between basketball and hockey in terms of how the state tournament looks, how the playoffs looks, all these things look. And basketball would say hockey is irrelevant to me. Hockey would say basketball, like that sport, in terms of what their structure is, doesn't have to look like hockey. And I think that's been the biggest challenge for us right now is to make sure that we're structuring the sport for the longevity of the sport. And I don't know that we always agree with the decisions the WIA makes. Let's be honest. We're in two divisions, not because the Coaches Association chose it, because the WIA decided it. Mm-hmm. And it was crystal clear in the conversations that were had at that time that if we couldn't do 8 and 4, Division 1, Division 2 state tournament, we wanted to stay one division. Now, I think some of the byproduct has helped. Smaller communities get to the state tournament. They've been able to get more teams to a wider variety of communities to the state tournament. Does it make the state tournament better? I don't know. There's probably another show for that. And I think, we've got to get more on the same page to push this in the right direction. Part of it is a facility. And I think that's where the biggest issue is. And obviously we're dealing with one locally here that affects our sport. And we're grateful that the county board decided to put some money into Rink 2, because that makes life a lot happier for our local hockey community. But I think there's other opportunity there to maybe think a bigger facility.
Well, let me ask, because I was going to ask. I can't be, dismissive of what they did, but they didn't do everything. And again, it just feels as though kick the can down the road. And we've been doing that for not 50 years, but this facility is 50 years old. I cringe to think if hockey in Wausau was not as successful. I mean, you look at what Wausau West has done over the years. You look at what the Storm has done over the years. You look at the youth organization, which has been, I think, very successful, and yet we can't get a new facility. I mean, again, I don't want to put you in a bad spot, but I mean, from my point of view, it seems kind of ridiculous when it feels as though there could be some incredible opportunities for our community if they would have a plan. It doesn't feel like there's a real plan out there at this point.
Well, I think there is a plan. I think how people perceive that plan is the problem right now, and I think that's where, when you look at it, the county board and the areas that they're affected, Marathon Park's in the heart of Wausau. Well, not everybody on the county board is from Wausau, and that's where I think as a community we have to understand that there's give and take in this process, and what great facilities can bring to communities, not just Wausau, but to our county, and to, you know, the hotels, and to the restaurants, and all of the things that happen with a big sports facility, because that's just a part of it. I think there has to be an education process here. I think part of it was these meetings fell at weird times for the people in the hockey world, because there's spring breaks, there's vacations, and these meetings that we, you know, really wanted to attend, but just couldn't. And you know, those things, there's just has to be a re-education process as to what it is, because I can guarantee you that there's people on the county board that aren't educated on what Marathon Park Ice Arena is, and all the great things that happen, not just hockey, from figure skating to public skating to broom ball to, you know, the roller derby stuff they have in the off season to, you know, so I think we're super grateful that they you know, got us to the point where, yes, I do agree. I think they are kicking it down the road, but I hopefully this opens up the opportunity for some more serious talk about a permanent facility to host some big events.
Which leads you to, you know, when you think of high school head coaches and all the other stuff that just involves to run your own program, and you got stuff with the rink and the divisional the divisions and the, you know, there's a lot extra to think about to make it work. And I guess I bring it all in as when you guys were sitting there talking about the great things that are happening, and you got West boys hockey at state, you got the girls hockey at state, we got Marshfield and East representing out of the Valley Boys Conference. You know, just a lot of good things happening in Central Wisconsin.
And the hockey, we have to mention the Cyclones, because you being part of the ownership of that.
Yeah, I mean they had a great,
very
super successful
not just this
season.
year, but a number of years.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's fun to watch success. I think, you know, like, obviously I'm not, I can't say I'm not a basketball guy. I'm a high school sports fan. Like, I love when kids have success, especially locally. And I didn't watch many East basketball games, but obviously have some connections there, and you want those kids to do well. Just like I hope that when we go to the state tournament, it's not, oh, West is there. It's like, no, I hope West does well and represents their community well. I don't know that's always the case, but my hope is that people want to root for high school athletes to do well, and because that sets them up for success later in life.
Right.
Well, as you look forward, obviously, and it does feel right again that West has been back to the state tournament. I don't know, maybe I'm showing my homerism there, but it felt right for Wausau West to be back. As you look forward, obviously you got that young man we just had here, got a couple of his line mates back. You got a young goaltender that was outstanding this year. There's a lot of reasons for optimism for next year, isn't there?
Yeah, I think, you know, there is. I mean, there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that are back, you know, and you know, a few months from now, they'll still be, you know, Cooper DePoit will still be left-handed, and he'll still be, you know, a really good hockey player, but, you know, hopefully he's a little more mature, as he's talked about his process in the last 3 years, and you look at some of the guys that just matured. I mean, it's fun to watch kids grow up in front of your eyes this year, and those guys, some we graduated and some we don't, and that's the exciting part as a coach is next year won't be like this year, and
no team is ever the same.
No, it's never the same. I mean, they're going to put on the same jersey, you know, like I said, Coop's going to be left-handed, Chase is going to be right-handed, Owen's going to be like those things don't change, but they'll be different kids, and you just hope that the fun and excitement that they had this year can drive, you know, the motivation to have a great off season and just be ready to go when November comes and just be excited to play hockey.
Well, and I was going to, because I don't know if I've ever, I don't know. I know we've interviewed you a couple times where I've been here, and most of the time I haven't when you're here, so I don't always get to ask you this, but you've done this long enough and got a great vision on what it takes to be successful and what this all means and why high school sports are important in general. What's the best part about it for you from season to season? You know, why you keep coming back for more, why you enjoy doing this, why you get back on the saddle every year, even when you need the downtime, and it can be exhausting, but it can be just as rewarding. What's the best part about coaching high school athletics for you?
That's another show. I think as coaches, not every year is a great year. In terms of the way you internalize things, the way that, the coaches' wives are wonderful people, and my wife is a great listener, and there's things that make you want to not come back. There's things out of your control that make you not want to come back, but when you get the opportunity to work with young kids and watch young boys turn into young men through the sport that you get to coach, like that's the why, right? Everybody goes back to your why. I love watching kids navigate this world through sport, and for them to be able to make the mistakes, and Coop talked about his mistake at the end of last season that cost him a game this season. So you just you look at some of the way, like, Cooper DePoit isn't the same player he was if he doesn't go through that. Mm-hmm. And you watch kids get to, in a small little environment, get to go through life lessons and learn from it and be better people. I love watching that process. I love tinkering with finding ways to make teams successful, whether it's in business, whether it's in my classroom, whether it's on the ice. I just really enjoy that process.
And as your daughter has, and not just one daughter, but you have all your kids getting older. But you have your oldest daughter now, just finished her sophomore year. What has that process been like as a hockey dad, while still being the head hockey coach at Wausau West?
Well, I think it's a lot of live barn. There's we watch. I watch a lot of film. I watch a lot of her plays, sometimes in person, sometimes online, and that part can be a challenge. But Emma and I have got a good relationship where, I asked her early in her career, I said, do you want me to be dad or do you want me to be coach? And she's like, I want you to be dad. And I said, okay. I said, but if you ever want me to be coach, just ask. I'm here. I'll help you. I'll do whatever you want, but just know that I'm going to support you, and I'm going to, I want to be there to watch you, because that can be the biggest challenge, because as a dad, you want so much success for your kids, but again, you kind of got to give up control and you got to step back, and just, it's been fun to watch her and her group, have success these last 2 years, and her role change from year one to year two. And obviously, I think she, looks forward to a really good year going forward here, and probably that role changing too. So, yeah, it's been fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of. It's, life goes fast, and never did I think I'd have a junior to be, and then I'll have a freshman. So now we'll have 2 granddaughters in the Storm program. So.
You guys know that feeling.
It goes fast. It goes faster than you.
The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.